There are plenty of opportunities. It's not that I don't know how to make money. I know how to make money. But there are plenty of opportunities where I don't take it because I don't agree with it. Okay? The reason why I don't want to grow and expand dramatically is because there are a lot of risks. All of a sudden, you're placing other people's lives at risk. And I don't want to do that. Let's do this.
I talked about how I started a company called Offbrand with the idea of making events for not just myself, but other creators. And that company is mostly made up of former Beyond the Summit employees. Unfortunately, yesterday we had to announce that we're closing down the production side of Offbrand. We released a statement that I'm going to read verbatim because it's pretty well written. When we started Offbrand, our plan was to help creators bring their ideas to life. For many creators,
MAGA mail, bro, immediately covering the untimely demise of a cooperative corporation. You see this? Classic right-wing guy.
We did that, and we're proud of everything we helped create. Our people worked hard, and we made amazing content, but we failed to make the events business sustainable. And as a result, we made the difficult decision to shut down that side of the business. Off-Brand Games isn't going anywhere, and I'm going to keep making events through Mogul Moves. But we want to thank everyone who supported and watched the events we helped produce. If you're looking for talent to fill...
For the record, this has nothing to do with it being a cooperative corporation and everything to do with how unsustainable it is to try and do a production company in the Twitch streaming sphere. There's a couple different reasons for this. Okay? And I'll give you examples. Number one, if you notice, OTK has had a fairly difficult time with the content production side of things as well. And I think the largest reason rather, is because advertisement dollars have not actually moved into the streaming space in the same way that they've moved into the podcasting space. This is something that I talked about. This is something that I talked about a while ago as well. Executives, money holders, people with, motion, people who have the capacity to say dollars are going to go here are oftentimes much older. And they're not tapped in to the latest and greatest of technology in general, and certainly not tapped into the latest and greatest in the world of streaming. This is precisely the reason why right now, while podcasts, dare I say, have no longer the relevance that they used to hold at its peak in the gold rush period of podcasting, the era of time from, I would say, the early 2010s all the way into, 2020, the podcast sphere is now massive, right? It's valid. It's legitimate. People understand when you say you have a podcast, okay? But at the time, when they were first blowing up, there wasn't a lot of money being dumped into the podcasting sphere in the way that it's being dumped into podcasts now. And the example I will use is Scott Galloway. I saw Scott Galloway is seemingly selling his podcast. Is talking about selling his podcast. And he claims that the 3 podcasts he operates will generate $10 million in 2025. We employ 5 producers, 2 analysts, and a technical director, sound engineer. A few businesses garner $1 million plus per employee. He also says that Pivot, the Vox Media podcast he co-hosts with Kara Swisher, will generate even more revenue. Now, I don't know if this is just Scott Galloway trying to desperately pump up his own personal stocks, okay? But I do know that, for example, BuzzFeed, and I didn't know that BuzzFeed owned this, used to own Hot Ones. YouTube is another sphere for this, where people know that YouTube is big. People understand it. These old executives now understand YouTube is a big deal. They understand podcasts are a big deal. That's why there's $100 million deals for the likes of Joe Rogan or even Call Her Daddy. Hot Ones was sold for $86 million. Kara Swisher and Scott Galloway are shopping around for a potential new deal for Pivot and other podcasts. The deal would likely hit 8 figures. CNN is in the mix of possible suitors. Now, as someone who has a very successful podcast, and as someone who is also on the other side, on the sphere of the cutting edge of content, which is Twitch streaming, okay? Maybe TikTok has even lapped Twitch in terms of being the cutting edge of content, but that's even hard to contend with as well. I don't think that Scott Galloway is bringing in that much revenue. I think he's just trying to greatly hype up his own stock because he's trying to sell it. But the very fact that he can still say that this podcast is bringing in $10 million in revenue means that it's somewhere around that. It means that it's actually, doing tremendously well. right? It's got to be in that range at least. He can't be exaggerating that much. Now, that implies that even someone like Scott Galloway can retain advertising dollars from blue chip companies. Someone in the chat said he has Salesforce and Audi sponsors. That means that these big dollars, these big advertising dollars have moved into the podcasting sphere because they usually are a decade late to the game. They are going to be a decade late to Twitch streaming. They're going to be a decade late to YouTube live streaming and live events. And this is why someone like Ludwig, even if he has an earnest intention to, make cool content, hire his friends, and create a production shop, was always destined to fail because he was too early. If he actually was doing this 5 years in the future, he could have a $100 million product in his hands. Unfortunately, he's not 5 years in the future. He's right now. He's living right now. So the most cutting edge in terms of advertising are dick pills and offshore gambling. You think Scott Galloway is getting dick pills and offshore gambling sponsors? No, I'm saying that when you're at the cutting edge, of a media environment, okay, and executives notice that, they will literally give you insane amounts of money for no reason. Okay? Scott Galloway is not sponsored by dick pills. Scott Galloway is a brand that old executives recognize. Scott Galloway gets Audi sponsorships. Cometown gets dick pill sponsorships or got dick pill sponsorships. Nandre says, just want you to know you're my anti-Semite of the year in my heart. Thank you, Nandre. I tried real hard.
Folks in production, please check out. We have a sheet that has a lot of the people listed. I've already had a lot of people personally reach out interested. So if you're hiring, reach out fast.
Also, your puppy is very cute, Nandre.
I would love if you did that. Now, this video is absolutely not to garner sympathy in any way, shape, or form, but it is more so to answer questions about how we got to this point, and then some just general misinformation I've seen, to respond all of it in a one-stop shop, as opposed to talking about it on stream every day. Now, the first thing I see a lot of people talk about is somehow connecting this to the structure of the company and it being a co-op. The most annoying people in the world are going to blame this on Ludwig turning Offbrand into a workers' co-op. I've seen a lot more people worried about these type of people than those type of people actually existing.
Yeah, cooperative corporations have significantly longer bandwidth. Like, the failure rate, in my opinion, of regular corporations, obviously there's significantly more regular corporations than cooperatives, but the failure rate is much higher with regular corporations than cooperative corporations.
But I mean, simply put, this is almost completely irrelevant to the structure of the business. The structure of the business, in fact, is also still in place, right? Offbrand Games is still a co-op, and it would only ever change if all the employees wanted to change that. But the real issue was the business model. Now, the business model wasn't working, wasn't making money. And the main difference, if you have a traditional S corporation as opposed to a worker co-op, is it's easier to get outside investment. But I don't think outside investment would help a failing business model. And we know that because it happens all the time, like esports. They have a bunch of outside investment, but when that VC money dries up, it shows that the underlying business model isn't working and they have to change their business model. We did that without the outside investment. And of course, outside investment can help with an initial runway because, most businesses don't make money in the first year. But instead of finding that money from the outside, I personally invested. I used my own money. We'll talk about that in a little bit. The next thing I see being asked a lot, God, that sucks, but they got to do what they got to do. They put on amazing stuff. I wonder what German's going to be up to. A lot of people are curious what German's going to be up to. And German's talked a bit about this on his stream, but about 6 months ago, I think, maybe a little more, German stepped back from Offbrand Productions to just deal with some stuff in his personal life. He was an irreplaceable part of Offbrand. He adds a creativity that I think is one-on-one. I don't think I've ever seen it in another human.
Ludwig spoke about it on stream last night. They shut down because Aiden found out the books were cooked unbeknownst to them, and they ended up having minus $3 million from sponsor revenue. No one stole the money. It was just in float to inflate the numbers. This also meant that they hadn't paid tax in 3 years. The business model was unsustainable. If they didn't shut down Offbrand, Lud would have also had to shut down Mogul Moves by March.
Human. You don't get Doug Shovelthon without the mind of Jeremy. You don't get like unpaid intern without the mind of Jeremy. He's a super talented guy. But as far as like, does this mean he's a full-time streamer or whatever? That is for Jeremy to speak to. But it shouldn't functionally change how his life was operating.
This is the fact that's important. This is UK.coop. Co-ops are resilient. In the UK, 72% of co-ops survive the first 5 years of business compared to 43% of regular companies.
The coming 6 months, based off like the past 6 months when he initially stepped back to like have some more time for himself. Hope that makes sense. Next thing I'm seeing a bit of, is this because the YouTube contract is over? Kind of the same answer as the worker co-op versus the S Corp. The YouTube contract allowed me to have a lot more money to like invest in places, right? And invested in various things, whatever. So I don't have a big sum of money to, keep it rolling for a year, 2 years, whatever. But even if I did, whenever that money runs out, again, underlying business model was not making money. So let's talk about why it wasn't making money. Now, a lot of people are hypothesizing that it's because events don't make money. But that's not actually true, right? They don't necessarily sometimes make money for me as the creator directly. If I spend like, I guess a good example, $1.5 million on chess boxing, but I only personally make $1.25 million back, you might think of that as a $250,000 loss for me. And like, oh, why is Ludwig running events? That's bad for him. But you can, or at least I can maybe safely assume that, hey, I might make $250,000 of extra value as a creator because I have grown as a result of doing this event, right? This is the biggest event I've ever done. It has the most eyeballs. And
don't co-ops end up being regular business in the long term? You will hire outsiders sooner or later. A lot of cooperatives actually end up utilizing contracted employees in areas of need, for sure. I mean, virtually every cooperative does that. It's understandable. There isn't additional cooperatives that you can rely on when you need extra help. What are you supposed to do? Here's an example. Let's say March is not around. Normally, there's a substitute person we can use. But let's say we don't have a substitute person that we can use. What are we supposed to do? Just not shoot the episode? You know what I mean? No, there is going to be a moment where you hire a contractor to help out. Does that make sense? For us, it's like, it's impossible for you to, like, you're not going to hire another full-time person and then split revenues with the full-time person in that circumstance. What'd you do to Marge? I mean, yeah, Marge is taking, let's say, his 100th vacation to Japan. Do you like Ludwig? I love Ludwig. He's a great dude. Why are you asking me that? Did you not pay enough to win anti-semi this year? Is Ludwig a genuine guy? Yes, I think he's a genuine guy.
Over the course of the next 5 years, that $250,000 will come back through like the extra.
So you can't really hire people in this new model? I always wonder if that was an issue. No, absolutely not. If, for example, the podcast got to a point where it was so fast that we needed to expand, then yes, you would hire a new person. What do you mean? And the process there would be democratically organized. Like, you would ask other people, like, should we hire a new person? What kind of revenue split should we engage with this person? Because at the end of the day, it would take away from everyone else's revenue. Yeah, most co-ops use contractors for temporary use. Corporations use contractors for permanent use. That's what contract work was designed for, not the way Uber abuses it. Exactly.
Growth that created. So I don't mind that loss. And the production company doesn't have that loss. Right? They are a production company that itemizes the amount of costs that they had to bear, including employee time, and then covers that cost sometimes with an additional service fee.
For the record, I just want to point out that the overwhelming majority of co-ops that currently exist in the United States of America and the UK and all around the world are not comprised by card-carrying communists, but instead by regular-ass people who genuinely understand the benefits of a cooperative corporation, but don't even think about it beyond that point. There is no ideological purpose for a cooperative. There's no ideological imperative for a cooperative. It's just, it makes sense if you want to have a resilient, long-standing business. The major setback for co-ops, the major reasons for why there aren't more cooperative corporations, Ocean Spray is a co-op, yes. The reason why there aren't more cooperative corporations out there is specifically because the early capital necessary is virtually impossible to come by when you're trying to build a new company, because the current the current way that we do business in the United States of America is you need upfront capital to start a business. In order to have upfront capital to start a business, one person is assuming risk. Okay? Banks will lend to a person that has money that they can leverage. They won't utilize they won't lend money to a group of people that are like, let's do it. Let's do a cooperative corporation. And our labor is the leverage. They can't do that.
So they are not losing money. In fact, those are the best months is when there are huge events like streamer awards or a HS boxing. The issue isn't the events. It is the time between events. So if we had a streamer games, a streamer awards, a Sea Dog charity auction every single month, or even 2 a month, that's what the team is capable of handling and would also need to handle to be able to sustain itself. So the issue was less that events don't make money, but more so that the appetite from creators for events of that scale at the cadence it would need to be would not allow people to be employed full time. It only really makes sense for like contract work. And you can kind of see that the appetite isn't there if you just look at the biggest streamers in the world over the past year on Twitch. This is like the top 15 creators on Twitch. And you can see here.
Who dat? Kai Cenat, Jinxie, Kadro, Keizo. Who the is that, bro? Hey, yo. Who the is that right there on the 5th slot? Self-glaze. That's your streamer, Hasanabi Piker, baby.
Nobody except for Kai on this list is doing big events. I guess Tarek is doing Ludwig Tarek 3 and a few other things to his credit. And, Hasan did that show with Twitch. But for the most part, most of these people are just in their bedroom every day. And their costs are like what it costs to keep the lights on and have internet running through their computer. That's about it. There are very few creators who are interested in, spending $250,000, $500,000 to do some random cool shit that at least, some big event or whatever. They'd rather do it from home. And who can blame them? I think they're doing that because that's a reflection of what the audience wants as well. All right. If you look at the best streamed event nominees for 2024, it's a lot different than it was a few years ago. It doesn't mean it's worse.
So a basketball tournament is not happening. Yeah, I think now that Ludwig doesn't have Mogul, what was it? Mogul moves Offbrand. Sorry. Now that he doesn't have Offbrand, we might just do it the way my manager wanted to do it originally, which is like hire out our own production company.
It's just different. Like the road trip to TwitchCon, that was a banger stream. But the reality is NMP set up all the tech for that. And it's like feeling like you are a part of this road trip with these people with maximum chat interaction, as opposed to something like streamer games, which is like, kind of like a fun knockoff Olympics with a bunch of creators, but you don't get that interaction that I think a lot of people vie for when they're watching streams. And so I think there's like a general shift that creators are doing that is a reflection of their audience's appetite. Now, we were able to make a lot of cool happen in the 2 years that we existed, starting from Mogul Money Live, which is kind of like the first event that then started the snowball of Offbrand. And we did Juice, chess boxing, Germa's Christmas special, like 3 Ludwig Tareks, Pog champs. But you'll notice a lot of these are just my events. That's just the fact. A lot of them are my events. And
this is something I've noticed with the English Twitch space has way less events than Spanish or French Twitch. I really think that Lud had a good idea, just not the right time and space he's in. I think another problem with that is that, dude, the French content creation space that serves the French-speaking audience is tiny. The audience is massive, but the number of content creators are tiny in comparison to the global audience that you have when you're English speaking. So that is, and the same for an even larger Spanish speaking audience, but yet still smaller than the English speaking audience, like the global audience. So when you have a massive market that you can capture the attention of like that, the way that you get the entirety of the French-speaking audiences to watch is just by throwing these massive events. When I buy does massive events, virtually everyone in Spanish-speaking audiences tune in to watch. When Ludwig is doing a massive event, there's still, I'm still streaming. A number of different massive content creators are still streaming. There's just like too much market competition. It's all over the place. Eyeballs are all over the place. And I think because of that, I think there's a lot of cross-pollination. There's a lot of people who like tap into these audiences as well. There's other Spanish-speaking content creators that participate, so many more. But then also on top of that, and this is the most significant part of this, not only are they getting like 3 million people to tune in, they also have ginormous, massive content sponsors. They have like iBuy's events are, am I saying his name right? I feel like I'm up. They're sponsored by like Volkswagen. Yeah, they're sponsored by these omega large corporations. eBay. So they have like real celebrities attending that. You know what I mean? It's like a whole event. It's a whole event that basically can compete with television. Bro, they literally have Football League in Spain sponsors these huge banks. Yeah, exactly. These guys are straightforward mainstream celebrities, okay? They are mainstream celebrities. They get constant news coverage. Can you imagine like Ludwig's chess boxing getting, front page on CNN in the same way that like eBuy's content that he puts together gets like mainstream coverage in these countries? It's not going to happen. I know a person who literally puts them together. I'm planning on participating. You know him as Squeezy. He does a F4 thing. He does like a whole, like they shut down an entire city to do Formula 4. Squeezy is the largest content creator in France. And that's massive. Where you're raising, I'm not saying anything. I just said, I plan on participating in some way, shape, or form. That's all I'm saying. I'm gonna show support to my boy. But like, remember, like that's massive. It literally, they shut down an entire city to film this and do an IRL stream around this. Millions of people tune in.
Unfortunately, although I wish I could be, am not a big enough creator to be able to sustain all of those full-time employees. I'm just not. I tried, man. I tried to do every big event I possibly could, and every cool thing. I worked as hard as I ever have this past year, but like maybe only Kai is big enough to be able to do that, and has the appetite to also do that. And we didn't have enough outside streamers to be able to fill all those gaps between the large events that we did do. All right, I hope.
To be fair, if there were more Kais out there, also the impact of Kai would soften too. Does that make sense? If there were like 10 Kai Sanats, then there wouldn't be one Kai Sanat. Like there wouldn't be a Kai Sanat size content creator either. That's the other part of this. Like if the environment, if we all of a sudden saw like a massive amount of money pouring into Twitch and Twitch content creators, and everyone was putting these like ginormous events together that were, month long and whatnot, then it just would not be as big. Like Kai would not be as big. At the end of the day, it is a little bit of a zero-sum game for sure.
Hope that makes sense. That's the general issue. Now, again, Offbrand Games isn't going anywhere. Okay, Offbrand Games is going amazing, honestly. Like Rivals of Ether 2 has been a blast to publish and promote and like play. Although at times it's been sad because I dropped down to silver. But I enjoyed it a lot. And that part of the business, we are going to keep going. All right. We have a lot of people still on that team. It's just the production side, which is changing. So for me personally, it's going to be switching to more contract work and also switching, I think, the style of events that I do. For example, I did 2 events in the past month. One is World's Greatest Gamer, where I got all the greatest gamers in the world. I flew them out. They drove out.
Excuse me, lil bro, I was not invited. So no, I don't think you did ask all the best gamers in the world. So I don't know why you're lying to your audience.
20 people, put them up in hotels. It was a 2-day event, streamed it, and Void eventually won. It was sick. That peaked at about 30,000 viewers. It was a lot of fun to do. The other event I did was League Week. It was in this exact room. We had a pretty...
I don't think that's necessarily true. I think that discounts to every Kai puts into his streams, money being poured into Twitch wouldn't be the answer, but finding a streamer who want to put on good streams like Kai does. Dude, what are you talking about? You think other streamers don't want to put on good streams? What do you mean? There's a tremendous amount of planning that goes into it to put forth the insane long, month-long like banger streams that Kai puts together. Okay? But that is a ton of production costs associated with that. That's a shit ton of risk as well. Kai, have you not seen the background of Kai's production? It looks like a reality TV show. He has a whole massive number of producers.
cool set. Me and Connor played League for 100 hours straight. I won as many games as I lost, and we peaked at like 38,000 viewers on just my stream. I think 50 across both streams, which is crazy, right? It's crazy because the cost of League Week is 20 times lower, but I think reflects what audiences want, which is like maximum engagement with their streamer. That doesn't mean I'm going to stop doing events because I still really like doing things like streamer games. You know, for me,
I think the thing is Kai is able to also seamlessly merge real-time interaction with his audience, which is something that this space needs, okay? You can't do big events where you don't constantly give that feedback back to your audience. That's the reason why they watch Twitch. Kai is able to do that and also pair that up with all of these like explosive, eye-catching, crazy collaborations and twists and turns. You know what I mean? Yeah. He brings celebrities in, but he makes celebrities also participate in the parasocial nature of this content. I think Ludwig's events, or just events in general, are not conducive to that. I wanted to factor that into Debate Lords as well when I was thinking about ways of doing Debate Lords. But even then, it was difficult. Like, we had audience participation, but that was very limited. It's not the same as like real-time feedback. Collabs among streamer circles isn't going to bring a lot when a lot of the same viewers watch or know both. It's not bringing new people in. Yes, that is also true. Twitch's market penetration in and of itself is not that significant. Okay? It's a minuscule percentage of the overall like watchers, online content consumers. But I'm saying in order for Twitch to improve its market penetration, these massive, big, explosive content, like these explosive events that get news coverage, that get media coverage, they get people to like pay attention to Twitch, have to happen. However, in order for that to happen, there needs to be money that's coming in, because you can't put on a big event like that unless there are massive sponsors that recognize the value of a Twitch audience. The value of a Twitch audience is incredible. It's insurmountable. I'm not saying that because I'm a Twitch streamer, okay? I don't give a as you guys know, I don't really take on a lot of advertisers. I say no to advertisers very famously, very openly, okay? But Twitch audiences are so tapped in. Like, the click-through rate of a Twitch sponsorship is incredible. I've seen it in my own personal journey. When I grew my hair out, there were motherfuckers in the chat that would come to the meetups that also started painting their nails and grew their hair out. There is an incredible amount of emotional and personal investment that people put to a guy that just sits there and talks to them for 8 hours a day. Okay? Advertisers have no idea. Advertisers have no clue how powerful that is. They have no idea how powerful that is. And why should they? That's why, despite the fact that Kai Cenat is the largest content creator on the live streaming side, and perhaps one of the largest content creators in general, one of the most famous people for people under the age of 20, Van Jones is like calling him Kai Cent when he talks about him at a New York Times deal book seminar. Like, think about that. He called him Kai Cent. Every day there's a new post about what your glasses are on Reddit. It's crazy. I know. My point is, advertisers are slow to move into these places, and when they do move into these places, usually late. They're late to the game. And the real tastemakers have moved on to the next thing. Twitch and live streaming in general and TikTok is that right now. Okay? It has a tremendous amount of value, but advertisers don't understand it. They don't recognize it. They don't know it exists for the most part. By the time they do and big dollars start rolling in, it probably will be too late. It's too late for Offbrand now.
Me, that's like winter vacation when you're in school. It's like that's the that I do look forward to doing. So still want to do things like streamer games. We'll still try to do that next year. And other events have already switched to being done by contractors. If you have a keen eye, you might have noticed the most recent Ludwig wasn't produced by Offbrand. Neither was the LACS Rivals event. That was also not produced by Offbrand. There were some Offbrand employees working on it, but those events are still going to happen. This doesn't mean that like, no, I'm not doing any more Smash events or any more. That's not at all what this means. And at some point, I might talk a little bit more about how this happened so suddenly, but it's because the cost mounted quite quickly. All right, simply put. It got to a basically unsustainable point. And I've seen some people give shit for like the timing of this, right? Like before the holidays, whatever, which is fair criticism. We are doing like a good severance package. We are paying people out for the next 2 months. But the reality is if we were to have kept this business going until March, I would not only have enough money, I would not only not have enough money to keep Offbrand going, but I'd also have to shut down Mogul moves at that point. It was beginning to impact both businesses with just the burden of costs of the production side, if that makes sense. So it's something we had to act quickly on. And if we were to delay breaking the news to the employees, you know, maybe you could announce this after the holiday break and sit on it, then they would just have less time to find work. So obviously the timing is not ideal, but we did it and we acted the moment we found out the information that, hey, by March, if we don't do something, everything is going to. Okay, so it was really an act now or act never situation. But anyway, that's it. Again, I'm going to link the staff spreadsheet in the description. If you are hiring, please check it out. And if there are any questions, you can throw them in the comments. Maybe I'll make a follow-up video or talk about it a little bit on stream. But that's the main deal. Sad day, but tis life. Tis life, and you know what you do? Keep moving, because that's what the globe does. All right.
This is part of the reason why, this is part of the reason why I'm very limited in my growth. Like, if you think that I don't know how to like build a network or whatever, go to advertisers or no, go to VCs, pitch them, and use the popularity that I currently have with at least like tastemakers and in mainstream media to my advantage to immediately expand with the hopes of having a dramatic exit like Shane Smith from Vice after selling off the company for quintillions of dollars. I understand how to do that. I know how to do that. I don't want to do that. Does that make sense? For a lot of people, wait, what? Your agent should do that? Your VCs would hate you? You're wrong. Dude, what are you talking about? You're wrong. You have no idea. Okay? It's the same principle behind like me not taking advertisers unnecessarily. Advertisers that I don't need, advertisers that I don't want. I told you guys before, the 501c4 that I work with Rashida Tlaib wanted to pay me. I told them not to pay me. They wanted to pay me a lot of money to have Rashida Tlaib on. And I was like, I would love to have this conversation with Rashida Tlaib anyway. And I refused their payment. Like, what are you talking about? There is a tremendous amount of money, tremendous amount of revenue that I could generate more off of what I'm doing. And I'm not doing it because like, oh, I'm so real. I'm the realest one out here. Okay. Yeah. I told them they should send it to a charity instead. Yes. I was like, I don't want the money. You should give it to a charity instead. Now, 2 months is not great severance law when the rich guy talks about how much money he passes on. Man, shut up. Seriously. Adjust the expectations to the amount of money you make and how much free money someone would give you for doing the same exact thing that you know and love to do. If someone were to come up to you and be like, hey, with the amount of money that you make right now, let's say someone came up to you and we're like, we're going to give you $10,000. Okay. but you have to do a sponsorship of Walmart and you don't have to do anything else, anything different, anything new, you would take that money, okay? Adjusted to the revenue I'm generating, yeah, I am saying no to quite a lot of money. The f are you talking about? Polymarket wanted to give me $1 million. How much money do you think I make for literally 1 day of streaming as a starting point of the negotiations? Which means they were willing to go up higher as well. For 1 day, I said no. $1 million. Do you know how much money that is? Do you understand? Do you think I make like 10x that, 20x that? So stupid. Also, Offbrand was a co-op, meaning this decision was probably made collectively. Yeah. My point is that there are plenty of opportunities. Like, it's not that I don't know how to make money. I know how to make money. But there are plenty of opportunities where I don't take it because I don't agree with it. Okay? And even then, the reason why I don't want to grow, the reason why I don't want to grow and expand dramatically is because there are a lot of risks. All of a sudden, you're placing other people's lives at risk. Okay? And I don't want to do that.